wrestling fans, and welcome to another edition of NBC's 10 Count. I'm Steve Fall. On today's edition, it's not one guest, it's two. That's right, it's the hosts of the brand new podcast, Kliq This, coming out July 11th on Podcast Heat Network. It's Sean Oliver and Kevin Nash. How you guys doing today?
Good. How you doing?
I'm talking to Kevin Nash and the guy down there too, Sean Oliver.
Yeah. I was going to say it's like a guest and a half, Steve. Come on.
It sort of is. Big, sexy, and you sexy. Yeah. Yes.
And Ringo. Just call me Ringo. I think.
Hey,
Kev, we haven't worked that out, but I'll be Ringo. Okay?
Let's not hurt Ringo. Okay. Now, how does this podcast differ from the rest in the wrestling world? Because obviously, it seems like everyone who's a former wrestler has one. But I think, Kevin Nash, you have such a huge story to share from the beginning to now. What differs this podcast from the rest of them?
The fact that I won't be reliving my past every week. I'll be talking about like current events,
Oh, good.
Yeah. I'm not gonna have Bruce Springsteen's glory days playing in the background every time I speak. So,
we don't have to hear the what did you do on this date and what were you doing the next day? When did you poop? When did you eat? We don't have to hear that.
No, we're not doing that.
All right.
No.
So, and I heard you're gonna have musical guests, entertainment guests. Like, how did you both decide on the concept of this show? Because, like you said, many of them are about what did you do when the NWO was formed? What did you do when you won the world title? This one is going to cover more current events and bring in more entertainment from the outside world. So how are you deciding on the topics?
Well, we covered when we were on air together on the shoot interviews. Those were the interviews where we talked about what Kevin pooped after certain matches, but we would often go off onto whatever the topic du jour was. And I think, Kev, fan response really kind of pushed us to this place. And the stuff they loved most was when we were riffing about other things. When I would position a question to Kevin about something NWO related, but it might go somewhere else. And I think that's what they liked. So naturally, I think we had to take that formula and get in the lab and concoct what we're going to be serving on Kliq This, which is Kevin Nash on everything.
I'm excited. And Kevin, do you have anything to say about that? Because I think this is going to be such a great project for you.
I mean, like I put on a tweet the other day and it's one of those things where it hit home so well because I said, I finally have a format, where I don't have to worry about 140 characters and like 2 seconds later somebody, but it's 280 now, like, whatever. It's like, what, I get to talk. I don't have to type it. I don't, and I mean, there's a lot of things that are going on in this world that, are a lot more important than who the hell's the world heavyweight champion of either of the television shows. So
this is true.
This
is true. Now, so will you talk about wrestling at all on your show? Current events,
Absolutely.
Like pay-per-views, what happened, biggest stories, as in the Sasha Banks Naomi stories, taking over the wrestling world.
Absolutely. I mean,
and people, I think, want to hear your opinion.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely. I'm absolutely going to cover it. I mean, I'm not going to. I know what my fan base is. My fan base is a lot of wrestling fans. But I'm also not going to be talking about, a 23-minute match that started Raw, for 23 minutes. I mean, it just, it ain't gonna happen. I'm more excited that the Dow was up almost 2 points today. So I'm more excited about those things that actually affect my life.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'm very excited to see when the wrestling headline, all those websites are like, it's going to, use it wrestlers like this wrestler said this about that person. It's going to be Kevin Nash said the Dow went down 2 points. Like, oh my, he did? And again, I think that's the concept you're bringing to this is it's not, hey, let's go back in the Wrestling Observer and read what happened in 1991 when you were Oz. We're going to talk about what's happening in today's world that affects me versus some people might have been alive on the topics you're discussing 30 years ago. Why would someone care sometimes? In today's world, there's a lot going on. Ukraine, politics, the pandemic. So I think people are really going to be interested in hearing your thoughts on that. And is there a subject that you're kind of nervous discussing because it's going to either make people happy or piss people off?
I think anytime that you're going to talk politics, anytime you take a political, and my whole thing is, I really have thought about this, and I see so many people that are doing a stance on a political stance. And like what I'm trying to do, and I think Sean and I have discussed this, is not be dividers, but be unifiers, which would be a different, just because we don't, you might be somebody that voted for Trump and I might be somebody that voted for Biden, doesn't mean we can't have a conversation, and it doesn't mean, that you're a bad person. If we have a difference of opinion, it's just that I have a different opinion on a lot of things.
Right.
And, like if you wanted to talk just for 2 seconds about digital currency, I say Ponzi scheme. Everybody else says, you don't know what you're talking about.
Then I'm excited about your NFT podcast. Very excited.
Yeah,
when's the last time you had Larry Bird on who said, screw NFTs? When is the last time Robert Parrish was on your show and said, I think crypto's a scam? This is something special.
This would be the first.
But we have to look at let's just look at the pure data since January. NFTs on every search engine are down 89%. So you're going to tell me that that's now still the cutting edge? The NFTs just evaporated. Where are they?
People will find a number that will show you that, no, it's still great.
Yeah, exactly. No, look, I have this monkey with the sailor's hat that I paid $23,000 for. Good for you. Good for you. Keep that in your meta wallet.
I was going to say, that reminds me of the poor person who bought Tom Brady's retirement ball for ridiculous amounts of money. And then a day later, he's like, I'm back. It's like, oh, no, the value of that ball just shot down to zero. Oh, but Sean, how excited are you to start this Kliq This adventure with Kevin Nash? Because I think a lot of people have been waiting for him to come out there and have a podcast. And now we're going to get one. And you get to talk to him and listen to his intelligence.
Yeah, a lot of people have been waiting for Kevin to answer the phone. First of all, a lot of people have been waiting. Is that
personal? Is that a personal? Are you upset with Kevin for not answering your phone calls?
Try to book him. We only started talking about this 6 years ago. I found my original files, and I think it was actually in 18 we first started talking about doing a podcast. Podcast mania had not really hit yet, but we were in response to fans pushing us towards this and saying, you guys, your programming together is interesting. We're kind of I don't come from an athletic background, but something in our conversation sparks fans' interest. So in 2018, we started talking about it. A few false starts, busy schedules, but finally this year we said, if we're going to do this, let's commit. And we put together our proposal. We went to Podcast Heat, our distributor, and it's been great. They were receptive. They're going to let Kevin do whatever he wants. I'm certainly not going to get in his way. He wants to talk about NFTs. We're talking about NFTs. We're going to talk. We'll have guests, obviously, but they may want to talk about NFTs too. That's the thing. It's like we don't have to stick to a title history. There are a lot of guys in the business. Might shock you. They're intelligent. Their interests are varied, and they could talk about almost anything. So that's kind of the pitch. We could talk about Johnny Depp's 10 greatest films. Anything that comes up, we will address.
And so each episode will have a topic, right? Before I click on the episode, it won't be this week, just another episode. I will know this is about NFTs, this is about politics, this is about baseball, this is about.
It's not going to be rambling musings of the recreation room on the psych ward. It's going to be a focused conversation, but there'll be a guest. You'll see who the guest is that week, And,
Okay.
then there's going to be the segment up front where me and Kevin are riffing on what's going on. And then we sit down with the guest for about an hour. And we're going to close it out with fan questions, video submissions, Twitter questions. Fans love to talk to Kev. He loves to talk to them. So we're going to give them unfettered access to Kevin every week.
Well, July 31st in Nashville at StarCast, you're going to have a live Kliq This. Now, you're talking about different topics, but you're at StarCast. You're going to be forced, I think, to talk about wrestling, Kevin. Am I right?
I mean, it's Ric Flair's coming out of retirement. He's going to have a match that night against who we don't know. I think it was originally going to be Steamboat. Now that seems to have fallen apart. But hell, I might be in the ring. No, but yeah, we're definitely being. If I'm at the Super Bowl, I'm going to be talking football. I'm not going to be talking fashion. So.
You should. That would be a great episode. We're at the Super Bowl right now, but hey, where'd you get your pants?
Yeah. What are those, Armani?
Those are great. Will you have any special guests? Because at StarCast and all those events seem to always supply a surprise element. Are we going to get some NWO members, some DX members, anybody like that?
Well, then it wouldn't be a surprise, Steve.
Yeah. Damn you, John! Quiet down there. Kevin was about to spill the beans.
No, I mean, you're dealing on top of we're all dealing with wrestlers. And I mean, there's so many times that, especially the very high echelon guys will say, yeah. And then, the morning of, they're like, oh man, I don't want to do this. And you got to cover your ass. So it's just like one of those things where it's just like, you don't want to get too pregnant too soon with saying, oh, I've got this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. Especially with the Supreme Court ruling on Roe Wade, you really don't want to. But it's just one of those things where you just got to kind of just see where this falls. I've got a lot. It's kind of like most shows have people that book. They have somebody that just books. But most of the wrestling podcasts, I mean, the guys, just book each other. They call their friends and say, "Hey, will you come on?" And so, I mean, I'm just not that guy. I'm just not that guy to call somebody and say, "Hey, come do my show," especially when there's no monetary, payday. I'm just, hey, come put money in my pocket while I sit at home, please.
Well, Kevin will learn to be that guy a little bit if it's required. A little bit.
It will take me time.
I've had to make some deals with some people to get them on my show, and it all has worked out for me at least, and for them as well. So it's all about publicity and free commercial advertisement. Like Kliq This, July 11th on Podcast Heat Network. I'm excited, and I just know everyone's gonna be so excited. And Sean, so have you and Kevin okay now? He answers your phone calls, he answers your texts about the show.
He's always been fine with me. It was just always other people saying, Sean, I know Kevin. Could you text him for me and find out why he doesn't want to fly coach at 7 feet tall in the last row out of Daytona instead of Orlando, So it was more other people. This you were talking about, looking at the podcast landscape now and seeing, the favors that wrestlers are doing. I always said I had wrestlers ask me all the time to do podcasts, and the nightmare scenario was looking like the guy that dragged the wrestler out of bed and had to throw him in front of the camera, which is what 9/10 of the podcasts out there look like. Like you could sit there and go, oh, here's the excitable fan, and here's the guy who just got woken up and told, we're going to make a ton of money on this someday. I said, it can never be that. So if it's ever going to happen, it's going to be what Kev and I are going to do.
All right. And so what are your goals for Kliq This then? Because I think, again, you mentioned there are as many podcasts out there, but you have Kevin Nash talking about everything underneath the sun. So Kevin and Sean, what are the main goals for this show? Because obviously you could have done one for so long ago, and now you're doing it now.
I mean, I think what it is too is I think it's a mindset. I'm going to turn 63 in July. So I mean, like as you get older, I mean, you do become wiser. And there's a lot. I mean, you become a different human being. There's so many things that I've watched and heard on so many of these different podcasts that I've just bit my tongue. They've talked about me. They've talked about different things that have happened in my career, and they've given their opinion, and it's just like, and most of it's just bullshit, and they don't think there's going to be any rebuttal. So there's a couple people out there that are, going to catch a big boot here come July. And there's some other, there's just, some of these people need to be put in their place. And I'm just that guy.
Oh, man.
There's your trailer moment, Steve. There's your trailer moment.
I know. That's the clip I'm going to use on Twitter when I promote this interview. Kevin just said he's going to boot the crap out of people in the face.
Yeah, there's some people that, hey, you got to be accountable in life.
Well, of course. And like you just brought up, I think even more in this world, it's where you are divided. You're either one side or the other. There is no middle ground. And I think you brought up earlier when we started talking about this, you're going to create a middle ground. If you voted for Trump or you voted for Biden, well, guess what? You can still talk about politics without being like, you're wrong because you voted for that person.
Between the extremes, there is all of us. And we are far greater in number than those that live on the fringe. But how, social media has given everybody a microphone. So sometimes that cacophonous noise sounds like it's so many people. It's really not. Most of us live in the middle, and we actually think about issues before we decide how we feel about it. We don't take the bait from the TV show host or the politician du jour who we've pledged our soul to. We actually think about it sometimes. And that's the fan, that's the market.
Man, I think this show is going to do so well again, because you mentioned before, like, we're not going to be like, so what was the formation of the NWO like in detail? I want to hear every hour, every day, what you were doing, what you were eating. And and people might want to hear that too, but I think hearing your knowledge of everything, because all I've ever heard on any podcast, you mentioned people were insulting you maybe, but I've also always heard your intelligence. I've never heard someone call you dumb or stupid. I've always heard Kevin Nash is intelligent. So,
well, I appreciate that. But it's like, you have to be. I learned something today. Okay, I was reading. I don't know what I was reading. It was one of the news feeds, and Liz Cheney spoke yesterday, pretty much anti-Trump, and she made a reference to the fact that her great grandfather fought for the Union, was a Union soldier, and I'm thinking to myself, like, wow. And she's talking about it as she walked through the Capitol, on the 6th, and the police officers have been basically fighting, for hours, hand to hand, and it was, and you've got other people that are saying that these things didn't happen, and it's just like, like I saw a tweet from Glenn Jacobs last night. He was saying, like, make sure you remember that these people that they're trying to get your vote, we're trying to take away your jobs. I guess, because of, like, I don't know, pandemic or whatever. I don't know what his point was, but taking away my job is one thing, but this guy is the only person that didn't hand power to the next person with grace and dignity. So I'm more worried about being a democracy and having constitutional rights than I am about being a Democrat or Republican. I want to be free. There's people dying in Ukraine right now because that's a democracy. I don't understand from my viewpoint. I don't understand how. I don't remember Kuwait being a NATO ally. But when Kuwait was attacked, we were there. Ukraine, they're not. They're a democracy. We used to fight communism, and what are we doing? Oh, we're supplying them. Why? Because
it's very that I agree with that.
Yes.
That's a very touchy subject because at the same time, you go in there, what you're doing now is you're saying we're here, boots on the ground. Well, then Russia's like, all right, now we're at war with you too, and
Yes.
and that's exactly why you can't put boots on the ground. If you want to sacrifice your own people, then you have to commit to that.
And as I said, we're so punch drunk after 20 years of being in the Middle East that the last thing we want as a country, and I think from sea to shining sea, last thing we want to do is put our boys and our girls in harm's way again.
Yes,
you know.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean that's not a right or left view. That's American view.
Yep.
You know?
And you brought up politics, how each side is going to take this war with Russia and Ukraine and trying to twist it to benefit their side. No matter what side you're on, they will twist it to give them the leverage on the other side. Oh no, you're doing this because of this. You're doing this because of this. Everything's politics. It doesn't. If you like orange juice, suddenly it's because you support some sort of weird law in some strange country. It's really crazy. And obviously you're going to talk about so many of these things on your new podcast, Kliq This, July 11th on Podcast Heat. I'm just sitting here talking to you right now about one subject, and I can't. Sean,
and we could be talking about Bruno Sammartino this whole time. See,
I was going to say, but coming up next on Kliq This, why did Stephanie McMahon leave, and where did Kevin buy his boots before In Your House 7? After these words,
where did you buy your boots? Actually, I was going to say In Your House 7. I don't remember which one. I just remember when you ripped off Mad Dog Vachon's prosthetic leg and used that in a match. That was classic.
I was walking over to him. He was sitting there in his chair, and I looked at him. I said, "Give me the Iggy," and waved the bad leg. It's all like
you pulled the other one, you would have dragged him on his ass.
Exactly right. Tear it out of his hip joint. So
it's just blood pouring out of the leg you're holding, smashing Sean in the face.
Yeah.
Why is there blood everywhere?
Like an old Ren and Stimpy cartoon.
I would love it. Well, I think everyone is going to be jacked up. We talked about everything underneath the sun here: politics, wrestling. We heard Sean actually is getting phone calls and texts from you again. That's good to hear. People won't be calling you anymore, Sean. Maybe they'll leave you alone and say, "Hey, he's busy with a podcast."
After 52 weeks a year, this guy, I think you're gonna have all you can handle. But you see here, what do we do? 20 minutes, and we went around the world, right? It's 90 minutes a week.
I'm excited. Again, July 11th, Podcast Heat Network. Kliq This, KLIQ. I get it. I get the reference. Somebody might know. I don't know. Maybe they won't. But thank you so much, Kevin Nash, former world champion. Sean Oliver, former something.
Champion in my own mind.
Have a great day.
I wouldn't do this if Sean wasn't involved. I wouldn't be doing this. It's the only reason I'm doing it, because it's he and I have had chemistry from day one. And if I'm going to do this, I'm going to be in the foxhole with somebody. I want somebody that can definitely hold theirs. This is a 50-50 deal. So.
Oh.
And listen, and I wouldn't be doing the Kevin Nash podcast if Kevin weren't doing it either. So
it would be awkward to have a podcast called the Kevin Nash Podcast.
Imagine that
without Kevin Nash.
I'll do a hologram of him and just talk to it. Yeah.
Hold an action figure in your hand.
That's going around.
It's true. That's your first episode. Holograms. What will you do with them? And what will you do with them?
Too soon.
Too soon. Kevin, rebuttal.
Maybe the Tupac Coachella 13 years after his death was the right call, but that's still a little too soon for me.
All right. Touchy subject. I see. Michael Jackson had a hologram too, so they've done it a couple times already. We'll see
when
if they do it again.
When they do the Jesus Christ one, that'll be the one that kind of I think sets the tone.
The tone of too far or not enough.
I think that will implode.
That's the day Twitter finally actually melts down.
Yeah, that's it. That's what Elon Musk is waiting on.
He's like, he's just drooling right now, creating the hologram.
$70. I'll buy Twitter for $70.
Hey, the bots might be there, the bots might not be there, but all I know is I'll be there watching the brand new podcast, Kliq This, on the Podcast Heat Network. Kevin Nash and Sean Oliver, thank you so much for being here on NBC's 10 Count. I've been Steve Fall. This is a dream come true. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye, Steve.